Consumer alert, there's growing momentum for pay transparency as more cities are joining a handful of states that require private companies to include salary ranges in all of their job postings. Tom Costello has a look at how it could impact job seekers and employers.
It's about to get a whole lot easier for job seekers who have long wondered if they're being paid fairly.
This is an important bill.
Private sector companies with 4 or more employees and at least one working in New York City must now include a good faith salary range on all job advertisements.
Understanding the pay range for a job is incredibly valuable for negotiation. It enables employees, whether they're asking for a raise or applying for a new job, to have a better sense of what they might hope for and what they should push for.
A growing number of states, including the most populated, California, are rolling out similar laws or already have them on the books. It comes as new data from Monster shows 98% of workers are in favor of salary disclosures. For previous generations, talking about how much you make has generally been seen as taboo. Many younger millennials and Gen Zers have been encouraging just that.
I'm a teacher. How much do you make? I make $53,000.
I'm in cybersecurity.
How much do you make?
Around $85K a year.
Hannah Williams is the creator of the Salary Transparent Street TikTok, a job she now does full time.
Today we're going to ask people what they do and how much they make.
Since launching 6 months ago, she's already racked up more than 870,000 followers and 18 million views.
I think that people are tired with the gatekeeping and the secrecy because it's becoming very clear now that that's really only benefiting corporate America.
Many hope the transparency will also narrow the gender pay gap.
Especially for women of color, we are so often at the bottom end of earnings, not through any fault of our own, but just based on racial and gender wage discrimination. It's going to level the playing field in a new and important way.
And while money and career coach Mandy Woodruff Santos says this is a huge win for workers,
don't get it twisted. There is still room to negotiate.
That includes benefits like sign-on bonuses, 401k matching, vacation, and paid time off. And whether you have a job or are currently looking, she says always keep your options open and use this new knowledge to your advantage.
When you see what other companies are paying for your skills, it gives you so much more leverage to negotiate with your current employer, and it gives you knowledge because then you can walk into any negotiation feeling confident that you know exactly what you're worth.
Tom, thank you. And another consumer alert, the FTC says millions of students' personal information have been exposed because of a tech firm's lack of security. The agency has ordered the education technology provider Chegg to strengthen safeguards around its customers' data. The FTC alleges the company failed to fix problems to secure the data it collects even after it was hit with 4 breaches since 2017. And the breaches threatened the sensitive information of approximately 40 million customers. That includes social security numbers, email addresses, as well as passwords. And according to the Treasury Department, banks spent more than $1 billion in ransomware-related payments last year. It's more than double the amount from 2020 and the most ever reported. The sharp increase could be because banks are getting better at tracking and reporting the payments. Hacking is a big national security issue. Officials from 36 allied governments are set to meet in DC this week to try to get the problem under control.